WNST to make our jaunt across the pond to jolly old London. And we're going to be doing 5 days over there. We're taking a whole bunch of fans. We got our big party on Saturday at the Fox at XL Pub off the Royal Victoria stop on the DLR. That is East London, the Docklands area. We're going to be going Emirates Air cable car across the River Thames. I'm hoping this guy joins us because, you know, it says Jaguars on the pass. And, yeah, he's been doing TV down there since 1981. But Sam Kavaris is a Baltimorean through and through. He's as disappointed in the Orioles campaign as anyone this year. You can follow him at samsportsline.com as well as Sam Kavaris out on Twitter. And, of course, longtime voice of Jacksonville sports at WJXT. But never forgetting your roots. You're going to wear an Oriole cap around London this weekend, aren't you, Sam?
I would love to. Yeah, you know, every time they sign somebody, I don't care what position he plays, I always go, can he pitch?
Well,
I mean, at one point, didn't they have the highest ERA and the lowest batting average in the American League? That's a bad combination.
Well, when you're sending a guy out for his 23rd start and his ERA is 7.59, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it really...
You don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah, that's right. It really speaks volumes to where they've been and where they're going. But, look, they're their own problem. We've got problems here. We have no Marshall Yanda. We got this game coming up. But more than anything, from a true tourist perspective, it wouldn't matter if both of these teams were 0-2 and they stunk. Our fans are going over. We waited a long time. It is nice that the football team's representative right now and that we can win this football game. But more than anything, this whole going to London thing, you've had a lot of experience in London. I know you had one of your children live there for a period of time as well. You love this trip. You're making this trip. Tell us about it, Sam. We're all going to London here to see some football.
Yeah, it's a good trip. The Jaguars, of course, have made a commitment to London through 2021. Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, really is an international businessman, truly. He spends half of his time either in the UK or in Europe. He just bought the major bumper company in France, in fact, and again, you know, just piling up the money there. And he told me it was kind of interesting. He said they really wanted a Frenchman to buy this bumper company, but that they didn't like the fact that an American bought it because they wanted to keep it kind of in-house. But Shad looked at me and he said, did you realize France is the 5th largest car maker in the world? And that's the kind of stuff that you wouldn't have at your fingertips unless Shad Khan was your owner. So he really has made this commitment. Don't be surprised if at some point, if the NFL expands their presence there in not just in the UK but also in Europe, if the Jaguars don't stay there another week and play as a visiting team in somewhere like Spain or Germany as the visitor, because the NFL really wants to try to expand this international series outside of the UK. The Jaguars, when they play there, will always play at Wembley because that is the national stadium there. And as you know, the NFL is going to play 2 games beginning in 2019 at White Hart Lane, which is the home of Tottenham Hotspur, which we went out there last year to look at their stadium, and it's being completely renovated and spent a lot of money, just like they do here in the States. So it's a fun trip because you get to see so many international NFL fans. I mean, people come from all over Europe. You know, I've traveled a lot. I've had the real fortunate opportunity to do that both for leisure and for business. And so I'm pretty good at languages, but there's a lot of times where I'm talking to a guy with a Jaguar jersey, and I have to say to him, now tell me where you're from.
Yeah, are you Russian or are you Czech? What are you exactly, right?
And the guy actually said, I'm from Warsaw.
Poland.
And I said,
okay, fair enough.
I said, are you just over here? He goes, oh, no. I put this on the calendar. I bought my ticket 6 months ago. I'm a Jaguar fan. And I was like, why? He said, well, I became an NFL fan the year that Carolina and Jacksonville came into the league, and I don't know where Carolina is, but I know where Florida is, and you hear a lot of that. So it's kind of funny and fascinating. And they
hey, Sammy would have been a Baltimore fan had they not stolen our franchise, right?
Maybe so. That's right. Which, by the way, would have been named the Bombers, and you would have had the guy that owned Merry-Go-Round as your owner,
Boogie Wineglass.
Yeah, Boogie Wineglass, exactly. So, but nonetheless, it's a fun trip in that aspect. it's a fun trip for Ravens fans to go over for the first time to kind of experience the sporting attitude in a different country, which there in London, it's very heightened. Obviously, betting is legal, so there's a lot of when you go to that pub on Saturday, you're going to see a lot of things on television. Really, just very intense, but at the same time celebratory kind of thing. The NFL really wants to make this work as 9 games a year. Literally, they'd like to play 9 consecutive weeks, and we'll see if they do that. For Jaguar fans, it takes away a home game, which obviously is not good for the fans. It's good for the franchise because about 23% of their revenue now is derived from the game in London. Sponsorship.
But from a competitive standpoint, it's not a home game. They don't get to eat and sleep at home. It's one more trip to Seattle that they have to make every year that most franchises don't. So, I mean, I do see it this week for the very first time as an incredible competitive disadvantage, you know, just mano a mano having 16 games and having to get on a plane and, you know, spend literally a whole day, you know, getting over and getting back, you know, every year to give away a home game. That's difficult, I think, from a competitive standpoint.
It can be, and the Jaguars have tried several different travel solutions, and they've kind of come up with one that they've won. They've won there the last 2 years, so they do the exact same thing. The 1 year after the game in Cincinnati, we all went down to the river and had barbecue, and then we got on a charter, and on Sunday night we flew to London and got there Monday morning. Lost that year. The next year, left on a Monday night, got there on Tuesday, and have stayed in several different places. Stayed in a resort, stayed at a place downtown. But now the Jaguars kind of have it down to a science. If they're going to make that commitment to the NFL, they're going to leave on Thursday like they always do. They're going to arrive Friday. They're going to go practice at a rugby ground that's about an hour from Wembley. They're going to stay at the Wembley Hilton, which is attached in essence to the stadium. They're going to have a walk through there on Saturday. They're going to play the game Sunday. They're going to go back, get on the plane, and fly home. So this is the way they like to do it. And for the first time in Jaguars history, they will not have their bye week the week after their trip. And I know that Baltimore doesn't either. So, usually teams take their bye week after the trip to London, but the Jaguars have decided to try to do something different. But the travel over there, and I can tell you this one thing, Nestor, is that what we have found is that when it's the first time that a team goes over, and in this case the Ravens, they're the ones that aren't real comfortable and don't have the same kind of comfort factor in terms of the knowledge of practicing and the weather and the fans and the travel. There's a little bit of a thing that's off for that, where the Jaguars really understand what they're doing now, and there's enough players every year on the team that have played this game that are able to adjust to it with the current schedule.
Sam Kavaris, he is a Baltimorean living down there in Jacksonville. So I think he only has sandals for shoes, I'm pretty sure, after being there since 1981. Tell everybody about your Baltimore background, because I always give you a little room to reach out on that. But it's second home. It's where you work down there, but Baltimore's always sort of been home for you and home for all your friends and family.
Oh, absolutely. I grew up in Woodlawn. I went to Featherbed Elementary. I went to Woodlawn Junior High. I went to Woodlawn High. Ended up, my parents moved to D.C. In my sophomore year, and ended up going to high school and graduating high school and college there in D.C. But, still come back to Baltimore on a regular basis. Generally go to Atman's and
get in line
and stand in line, and which is always great. And try to occasionally drive by it's not my boyhood home, it's my father's home, which is on Reisterstown Road, and just try to drive by there. And, of course, Baltimore has the same sort of ethnic diversity and racial split that so many cities have these days. But it is interesting to have spent most of my youth and certainly all my weekends with my grandparents down there, right there at Reisterstown Road and Fulton Avenue, that to to see the neighborhood change so dramatically is really interesting, and you understand some of the things that have happened in many of the cities and why there are so many issues.
Sam, you've made this trip over to London a bunch. Give me a little travelogue for some Ravens fans. What are some things that you think are worthy of doing over there for the people traveling? Because you've spent, a significant amount of time, I think, over in London over the years, right?
Yeah, my son still works for a company that owns the London Eye and Madame Tussauds and many other European attractions, and he speaks several languages. So he worked there for a while, but. Let me ask you, Nestor, just from a frame of reference, for people who are going from Baltimore, where will they fly from? Are they going down to Dulles?
We're flying out of Dulles. Other groups are flying out of Philadelphia. There's only one flight a day, a British Airways flight out of Baltimore, and I think the Ravens had that one pretty chartered up as well. So, I mean, it hasn't been difficult to get there. It was pricey. There's flights through Iceland as well where you can transfer to go over. We have a nonstop from Dulles into Heathrow. I flew into Gatwick this summer. Sam, I had a British girlfriend in the late 90s, and I spent about 6 days over in the UK in 1998-99, and I went to Stamford Bridge, and I saw a soccer game, and the girl I was dating was a big sport fan, big soccer fan, so she loved that. I saw David Beckham play. I saw New Order play at a castle on New Year's Eve, so I got to see a big concert, but I didn't spend a lot of time there, and in 20 years, we have been waiting for this game, and I run group trips as I've done here for 20 years, and we had a large group of people headed over, and this summer I said, I got to get over there this summer to look around because I don't want my first experience to be the minute I get off the plane. I want to sort of know my way around a little bit. And I went and spent 3 days over there. And I got to tell you, I was just not blown away because I had been there once and I travel all over the world, so I'm not sort of left-handed about this stuff. I'm looking forward to going back. I'm looking forward to seeing the spots I haven't seen. I'm not a king or queen guy, but I didn't get to go to Abbey Road. I would love to get on a bus and do a rock and roll tour and find out where the Stones and the Beatles and Pink Floyd and Zeppelin and all. I mean, I could do that all day long, but our group's doing a million different things. The one thing I did do back in July and Niels, who saved my wife's life twice, our German friend who was an NFL fan, much like, we talk about the value of this trip. I mean, he's a 25-year-old kid. He was 21 when he saved her life the first time. He loves the NFL. His brother watches the Patriots. They go out in Germany every Sunday night and watch the games over there. So for the millennials, for younger people, and it's definitely caught on, he's coming over to join us. And, being over there for a couple of days, we went to the Churchill Museum. And, Sam, I got to tell you, that was the greatest museum I've ever been to. I'm telling everybody that's the one thing I would do. But there's a million things to do over there that are attached to history and fun and royalty and tourism and all that stuff. I don't think 5 days is going to be enough for most people, right?
If you're flying into Heathrow or to Gatwick, I can tell you the very first thing you should do is get on the Heathrow Express or the Gatwick Express. It's about 10, 13 pounds. And from the airport, it'll take you nonstop into the center of London. The Heathrow Express goes to Paddington Station, and Paddington Station is very close to Marble Arch and other places. You can walk out front just like you would at any train station in the States, in the cities in the States, and catch a cab, and only get in a black cab, by the way, if you're in London, because those are the ones that are regulated. And it'll take you anywhere for not very much money, not far from Buckingham Palace, not far from all the things that you see, the iconic Big Ben and Parliament and that. I always like to tell people, and not because my son worked there, to go down and get on the London Eye, because London, as described by Dickens, is a town outside of government buildings that doesn't have any real buildings that are over 3 stories high. So if you get on the London Eye, and it's a 30-minute circular, it looks like a Ferris wheel, it's, first of all, an engineering marvel, but you also really get a sense of where you are in London. Right on the Thames, you see St. Paul's Cathedral, which is over toward East London, which is where you're headed, which, by the way, is one of the most authentic places of the most international city there is. You'll run into people from all over the world in East London, because that's where all the authentic restaurants are over there. But take the express, and it drops you right off, because you're going to get there in the morning and you're going to be beat. You don't want to fight traffic, which is terrible in London. The express will take you right into the middle of town, and you'll get pretty settled. and comfortable. And I would say look at a lot of the different things. And as you mentioned, I also couldn't agree more. The Churchill Museum, and I don't know if that's in Whitehall, but that's right there by Parliament. And during the war, before the Americans got involved with the buzz bombing in London, Churchill took virtually everybody in the British government, and they went and created a space in the basement of a government building called Whitehall. And that's where he executed the war and ran the government from, basically underground for a significant period of time. When I first went, the Brits had just opened it thinking, hey, people might be interested in this. So it was pretty amazing to see where Churchill slept. I mean, where he put his pen down.
It's all still there. I mean, and right. It's so well done. You know, I mean, I just couldn't get over it.
Plexiglass, right? I mean, they finally put plexiglass up because people were going over and laying down on Churchill's bed. But it's that's one of the things that, as an American, because you have a knowledge of the American involvement in World War II and Churchill and his relationship with Roosevelt and all the different things. That's really a thing that I think can really you can really relate to when you see. But, you know, everything that you see in London from a tourist standpoint, whether you go by Buckingham Palace and watch the changing of the guard, or you just go walk along the Thames, is almost, as you mentioned, it's storybook because it's exactly as you think of it. There's nothing there that you go, oh, this isn't as cool as I thought it might be, because it all really is.
Sam Cavera's covering all things Jaguars in Jacksonville since 1981, but he is a Baltimorean. All right, let's get on to some football, Sam. We've done all the tourist talk here. Ravens are 2-0. We're excited about that. I don't want to say shocked, but certainly pleasantly surprised, and that's nice. And we've lost Marshall Yanda. Certainly for the Jaguars, it's been a choppy couple of weeks. Jekyll and Hyde, I don't know what's going to show up this week, to make a British reference there. I don't know what's going to show up this week over there. I do hope it's that sort of version of the game where Bortles is throwing picks, because the Ravens have certainly gone and gotten the football over the first 2 weeks.
Jaguars turned the ball over 3 times against the Titans. One of them was Bortles' fault. He threw the ball behind Marquise Lee, and Lee batted it up in the air, and it was intercepted. The other 2 weren't things. The ball came out of his hand, but it had nothing to do with him. He's completely blindsided on the one sack, and the offensive line didn't block correctly on another one. But nonetheless, he's a better player than he was in the first 2 weeks of the preseason here, because it's one of the first guys that I've seen get benched and understand how important it is to play better to get your job back, and he did just that. And so we've seen a different Bortles in practice, and certainly 2 weeks ago against Houston. The key for the Jaguars is to not turn the ball over and to get Leonard Fournette, who, by the way, is the absolute, authentic, real deal. Get him the football. And if you asked Tom Coughlin last May after free agency and after the draft, what kind of football team do you want? All you got to do is look at what happened against Houston. He wants a team that runs its feature back 25 times, has their quarterback throw it 25 times, plays good defense, turns the ball over from a defensive standpoint, and wins games 21-14. And that's exactly what the Jaguars want. They don't want to rely on their quarterback. They want to rely on the physical nature that they think they have, both on the offensive and particularly on the defensive lines. Because when you look at their team defensively, they're impressive, very impressive on paper. But if they don't play their defense correctly, and if they're asked to stay on the field as long as they were against the Titans, then there's not much they can do about it. But this is a team that needs to kind of get some confidence early in every game, because that will allow them to control field position and control the clock, and that's the kind of football they want to play. The Titans want to play that same kind of football, and they just did it better than the Jaguars on Sunday.
Well, it's pretty clear the Titans are the class of the division at this point, but I'm not sure where the Jaguars are. Are you buying what they're selling? Are you buying that they can win 7-8 games this year and take that sort of a step? I mean, is Bortles ready for that, or do you not see him as the overall solution here?
I think he could be the overall solution, but he has to progress this year, or they'll go sign a free agent and draft a quarterback next year. But the line in Vegas was 6.5 in total wins, and I took the under.
Fair enough. That says it all. Shocked by the Ravens at 2-0? I mean, I know you don't get a chance to watch them the way we do around here, but I know you keep some interest in the Baltimore Ravens, and this is a pretty decent defense. I mean, I don't know what it can be before it's all over with. Sam, I spent the weekend with the Super Bowl 35 guys, so, around here we measure everything against those cats, but, so far so good. 10 points allowed. They did give up a couple of big plays, but then put the hammer down in the end, and when you take the ball away 10 times in 2 weeks, you're going to be considered a pretty good defense.
If you have a defense that can sustain themselves through 60 minutes on offense, you either need a quarterback who can get the job done or a running game that controls the clock. The Jaguars want to be that running game football team. The Ravens, on the other hand, have a quarterback, a proven guy who, although occasionally has been inconsistent and has taken a lot of criticism, is the kind of player that you can hang your hat on in that league. The Jaguars don't have that in Bortles, but anytime you have a quarterback that can control the game with his arm, like Flacco can, not saying he always does, but that he can, then you're liable to win games if your defense can hold up. And I think that's where the Ravens are right now.
Sam Kavaris can be followed down in Jacksonville at Sam Kavaris. That's Kouvaris. He's also at samsportsline.com. Tell me about samsportsline.com, Sam.
I've opened that website in 2000 before, websites were cool. And it's really served me well, and I think a lot of fans have enjoyed that. I write on it, post a podcast on it, post some YouTube videos on it on a regular basis. And it's also a good opportunity for just general it's a aggregate site as well. You can go on there and find other things that you're looking for. But it's been pretty popular, and it's nice to kind of have that with your name on it and be able to kind of design it the way you want, make it look the way you want, and take feedback from people about what they'd like to see and be able to make those changes. So it's been good. And also, for the time being, also have the URL sports4jacks, sports4jacks.com. And that takes you right to samsportsline.com as well.
Awesome. Sam, always great to catch up with you. I do hope we have a pint and some fish and chips and some mushy peas together, maybe some chicken tikka masala next door, hit some Indian food while we're over there. It'll be great to catch up with you. Lots of Baltimore people, lots of Jacksonville people, and hey, man, let's do it. Football in Europe. Sounds like fun to me. Let's go get on a plane, right?
I'll see you in London.
I hope so. Sam Kavaris joining us here from WJXT down in Jacksonville, Florida, covering all things Jaguars, but a Woodlawn kid at heart, as he pointed out in our conversation. Always great to have Sam come home and talk some sports with us. And if you want to join us 11 a.m. on Saturday, we're going to be at the Fox at XL Sports Pub. It is in the Docklands area off the DLR. That's Docklands Railway. And the stop is the Royal Victoria stop. It's right at the Emirates Air cable car. Our pub is about 2-3 blocks up on the left. We're going to march down to the cable car, take the cable car over the Thames, and then march on the O2 Arena at 2:52 in the afternoon on Saturday. Should be a great day. I checked the weather. Weather looks like it's going to try to hold up into the mid-60s, and if that's the case, this cable car ride, Sam talking about the eye over London, the cable car is very, very similar, going high over the River Thames, and it's only 4 pounds. It's awesome. I'm Nestor. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from wherever you happen to be. Our morning newspaper ships on both sides of the pond. All brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, and it's 25 cents to join. You can't beat it. They've been there 25 years, much like us. Planet Fitness and PlanetOfTriumphs.com to get some inspiration. Dennis Kolatzis is inspired by the Ravens' 2-0 start. He'll be here on Thursday hosting the SSV on WNST. You can follow him on Twitter. And, of course, if you're on our WNST text service, you know how awesome it is getting breaking news, all the injury reports, even the bad news on Marshall Yonda. We get that out to you first. It's all brought to you by Coonsford of Security Boulevard. Dennis is here 3 until 5 on Thursday. I'm over in London. throw me a note, nasty at WNST.net. We'll be Facebooking, tweeting, linking in, Snapchatting, Instagramming, doing all sorts of things from over there, including a bunch of video. So stay with us, walk with us, talk with us, and meet us on Saturday for some food and some drink. Party's open to the public and very, very easy to get to off the tube. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.